When someone says super SUVs, they're probably thinking of the Lamborghini Urus or Aston Martin DBX or maybe even the Porsche Cayenne. But I think that the 2024 BMW X5 M Competition also belongs on that list of super SUVs. Why? Let's go for a drive and find out why. 2024 marks a mid-cycle update, or life cycle impulse, as BMW calls it, for the X5. I previously did a video on the X5 40i where I mentioned all of the updates of this car, and you can check it out if you're interested after you watch this video, of course. This X5 M Competition receives all of the same updates. New front and rear headlights, new bumper design, new interior, which I'll get to in a little bit, but the engine retains the same power. It produces 617 horsepower and 553 pound-feet of torque from the 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8. Now, even before the mid-cycle update, this was a very fast SUV, and that's one of the reasons why I think it belongs in the super SUV category. BMW claims a 0 to 100 km/h time of 3.8 seconds. That's pretty quick for something that weighs 2.5 tons. But now, with the mid-cycle updates, the engine responds a little bit more quickly, and that's because it is paired with a 48-volt mild hybrid system. Now, don't be confused, this is not a traditional hybrid system like the kind you would see in a Toyota Prius, for example, so you cannot drive just on electricity. What this mild hybrid does is it improves the responsiveness of the engine and also helps make the auto start-stop system a little bit smoother. I'd like to say that it also helps a little bit with the fuel economy, but in reality, the fuel economy has actually increased for the 2024 model year. At least that's what it is rated for. So it now gets 18.2 liters per 100 kilometers in a city and 12.9 liters per 100 kilometers on a highway. But getting back to the power of this engine, you can be at 1500 RPMs, put your foot down, and the turbos spool up very quickly and you build up speed very, very rapidly. However, this X5 M Competition warps your perception of speed a little bit, or at least I find it does to me. And the reason why I say that is because you're sitting really high up. You're not sitting low to the ground like you would be in a BMW i5 M60, for example. So because of that, it doesn't feel like you're going as fast as you actually are. So for example, you could be thinking to yourself, I'm only going 60 kilometers an hour. But then when you look at your speed, in reality, you're actually going closer to 100 kilometers an hour. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but you just need to be careful because before you know it, you could have the 5.0 behind you. Another reason why I think this X5 M Competition belongs in the super SUV category is for the way that it drives around corners. Like many other modern BMW vehicles, it has very, very quick steering. Every minute input that you give to the steering wheel, the front tires immediately react. It has four-wheel drive and four-wheel drive sport, but it doesn't have the decoupling feature to make it a rear-wheel drive only vehicle like you can in the M5 and the M8. But even without it, it still feels like a rear-biased four-wheel drive system, as in when you accelerate out of a corner, you can feel that the back end wants to rotate a little bit more. Of course, being an M vehicle, you can also customize the different drive modes. There's M1 and M2 on the steering wheel, and you have many different options to change the different parameters of this vehicle to your liking. Body roll is very well controlled as the X5M comes equipped with standard adaptive M suspension that can be switched between Comfort, Sport, and Sport Plus. The different suspension settings are tied to the standard drive modes, or you can customize them via the two M buttons on the steering wheel. Helping stop the big SUV are 6-piston front calipers and massive 15.5-inch front discs. The rear has 14.9-inch discs with just a single piston caliper. Planting your foot on the brake pedal is as though you've crashed into a brick wall. The brakes are ferocious and stop the heavy SUV on a dime. Brake feel though is very good for such a large vehicle. Just like when it accelerates, the BMW X5 M Competition feels like a lighter vehicle than it actually is when it comes time to stopping it. Speaking of the adaptive suspension, in the comfort drive mode, the ride is pretty good for a super SUV. It's not as soft as the standard X540i, and you'll probably still want to play Minesweeper around the really deep potholes and manhole covers, but overall it is a comfortable ride for everyday commuting or long trips. Switch to the more sporty suspension settings and the ride is noticeably firmer. Body roll is better controlled, but it's not a drive mode that you'd want to be in for daily commutes. As for noises, the good thing is that the interior of the 2024 X5 M Competition doesn't have any odd squeaks or rattles from the trim pieces. It feels solid inside and well built. Also, the engine makes some rowdy noises with a few pops and bangs on the upshifts. However, I suspect that some of these noises are enhanced by the stereo system. The bad is that there is a bit more road noise coming from the tires. This is particularly evident on highways with old and porous asphalt or concrete. As I alluded to a little bit earlier in the video, the interior also received an update as part of the Lifecycle Impulse. It's not a complete makeover in here, but it is definitely noticeable. One of the very first things that you'll notice is that the physical climate controls are no longer on the dashboard. They are now embedded into the infotainment touchscreen. As you know, I am not a fan of this. I much prefer physical controls because I find them less distracting while driving. However, you can use voice commands and tell the car to change the temperature for you. So at least you have that. The update also includes the dual screen layout that every other modern BMW vehicle now has. And I think that the paddle shifters on the steering wheel have also been updated, because the last time I drove the X5 M Competition back in 2021, I think it was, it had different paddle shifters. So I'm not sure if these paddle shifters are also part of the update or if they were updated in 2023 or 2022. I'm not sure, but either way, I do like how they look and feel. But anyways, the rest of this interior is very familiar to the pre-facelifted version of the X5 M Competition. So you still get heated and chilled cup holders, if you option the car with it, that is. You still get the traditional BMW shifter knob. It's not the new toggle switch that the X2 has, for example. And you also get the iDrive controller in case you don't want to use a touchscreen and just keeping it clean of fingerprints. The seats in this X5 M Competition are also fabulous to be in. They have plenty of support. You can adjust these bolsters if you want. There is thigh support, and on this car they are massaging. And the massaging function works pretty well. I do like it. The only thing is, when you're getting in and out of this car, the bolster that's on the lower cushion may be a little bit too prominent for some. For me, it's not such a big deal, but for some, you may find yourself that you're sort of hopping in and out of this car. But again, for me, it's not a big deal. Otherwise, plenty of legroom, plenty of headroom. The seat is in its lowest position right now, but as I said earlier in the video, it does still feel like I'm sitting really high up in this car. And that's about it for the front seats. Now let's go check out the back seats. The BMW X5 isn't the most spacious luxury SUV when it comes to sitting in these back seats. So behind my taller than average 6'4" driving position, as you can see, my knees are digging into the back of the front seats, and unfortunately, it is made out of hard plastic, not soft leather. If I keep my legs a little bit more spread out, then it's fine, but if I want to stay nice and straight, then they are digging into the back. However, I have plenty of space for my feet, even though the seat is at its lowest point right now, and headroom is okay. I can feel my hair just barely brushing up against this very smooth headliner. The Mercedes GLE does have a little bit more space in these back seats, so if you are carrying a lot of people, particularly if you're tall and you carry a lot of your tall friends, then I would say that the GLE 63 might be a better option than this X5M. But otherwise, it's not too bad. I don't mind sitting back here for shorter trips. Further back, the X5M Competition has a pretty large trunk. With the rear seats in their upright position, there is 960 liters of cargo space. Fold the rear seats down and that number increases to 2,047 liters of cargo capacity. There is a power-operated cargo cover, and at the push of a button, it'll actually slide down into the trunk floor. That's a pretty neat feature. Furthermore, I do like the split folding tailgate. It makes loading heavy items in the trunk easier, and it can also be used as a seat at a tailgate party. So the X5M Competition has the performance of a super SUV, but you're not going to be paying the price of a super SUV. For 2024, you can only get this car as the Competition. You can't get it as a standard X5M anymore. But even so, this car starts at only $142,000 Canadian. I know I'm saying only $142,000. That still is a lot of money for us peasants. But compared to some other super SUVs, you can say that this is almost a bargain. And even the way that this one is equipped at just over $160,000 Canadian, it still is less expensive than the Competition. No pun intended. The features that you'd expect from a six-figure luxury SUV are there, such as the aforementioned massaging seats with heating and ventilating, built-in navigation, power liftgates, adaptive cruise control with lane centering and traffic jam assist, and leather everywhere that you touch. However, there are a few gadgets that are still quite common, even in non-luxury vehicles, but have a unique BMW spin on them. For example, there is a panoramic sunroof, but it has a blue glow around the perimeter. The X5M badging on the seats glows at night. The 360 camera has a 3D model of the car that you can spin to see all around it. Additionally, the car can detect parking spots and park either forward or backwards in them, and the car can remember the last few meters of any forward movement and then perfectly follow it in reverse. This helps when you go down a street and can't make a three-point turn. Little details like these add to the overall package of the car and make it a bit more unique than its competitors. So thanks to its ferocious power and entertaining driving dynamics, the BMW X5M Competition belongs on the same stage as top-tier super SUVs. On top of all that, it is much less expensive than the Competition, no pun intended. I mean, yes, it still is a lot of money for us middle-class people, but compared to some of the other super SUVs on the market, this is a good price. In the meantime, if you would like to know more about this 2024 BMW X5M Competition, I have a written review with a few more details about it over on my website. You can find that link in the video description or click on the pop-up banner right up there. And as always, I will see you in the next car or truck or most likely another SUV like this one. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and see you in the next one.